This is the PHLY Eagles Podcast. It's Wednesday. Nick Sirianni's talking to the press conference. It's Kelly Green week. Doug Peterson's coming to town. We're going to get the scouting report from Vinny Curry on Trevor Lawrence. A lot to get into today. Join us here on the PHLY Phillies podcast, or Eagles Podcast, excuse me. Jeez. Hello and happy Wednesday to all out there. Welcome into the PHLY Eagles Podcast, part Phillies, part Eagles. I'm Jamie Lynch, in with Rich Hoffman. Rich, it feels like a year ago that we did a show last Wednesday. So much has changed for the Eagles in that time. Biggest win in what feels like over a calendar year last weekend in Cincinnati. We're going to get into it all. And we, of course, are presented by Bet365. Find out why it's never ordinary with our friends at Bet365. Keep an eye out for our custom PHLY boosts and all of that. Real quick, we got Zach Berman joining the show in about 8 minutes. Vinny Curry is going to join us at 2:40. But, Rich, it feels like a whole new world for the Philadelphia Eagles now.
I'm pretty excited about this team, man.
Yeah, a lot's changed.
You said last week against the Giants that, it made you feel better, that win, but it didn't really change your outlook on the team.
Sure.
I think we can both agree that performance in Cincinnati against a team that's not amazing, right? I think that defense can be gotten, and the Eagles got it. But against like a legit quarterback who was playing, I thought, at a very high level, you have to play well to beat that team, and you have to play well to beat them on the road, and they stomped them. So I think that you really can only have one takeaway from that game, is that your opinion on this Eagles team has definitely changed. And I am super excited. I mean, now, you have this runway. You have Jacksonville, who you're a 7.5-point favorite against this week. And then you get Dallas. And I know that the Eagles stink in Jerry World. I mean, they really quietly have not played well there in, 7-8 years. This looks like the perfect time to play them.
Yeah, it does.
They're a mess.
They're a mess.
And they're arguing with reporters. And
look, you're fine. That was, by the way, Trayvon Diggs hit him with the got him. But you're 5-2 now. You have to kind of lay up games on the schedule here ahead of you. And I was just looking at the NFC landscape yesterday, and Detroit's a wagon. The Lions are so real. Good. They're really, really good.
Did you see Goff, his final numbers in that game, even though they scored 50 points?
Fantasy-wise, he put up like 12 points or something.
Yeah, he had like 80 yards. But hey, see, that's when you know you're good, though, because Goff has been really good these past few weeks.
Goff is, dare I say, the most underrated quarterback in the league?
Well, he just doesn't throw incompletions anymore. It's, I think you
most overhated on or most slept on, something like, because he's legit good.
He's been bad over his career at times, and he is prone to the ridiculously bad interception. Anyway, back to your point, though. When you can win a game when your quarterback really doesn't even have to break a sweat and win by 1,000,000 points. Yeah. That reminds me a little bit of the 2017 Eagles, 2022. Like, they had those games in there. So, yes.
But to your point, Detroit might be the best team in football. A lot of AFC powerhouses at the top. And then when you look at the NFC landscape all of a sudden and how much things have changed, I mean, just going off of NFL.com's power rankings here, they have the Washington Commanders 5th. And Jaden Daniels is one of the storylines of the year. But, like, if you're comparing rosters, the Eagles are more talented.
I would agree with that. And, man, that Commanders game,
I can't believe that.
I couldn't even enjoy it because it was such an amazing play, and it was obviously so ridiculous. But all I could focus on was the ineptitude from Matt Eberflus and that Bears.
What was he doing on the play before the Hail Mary? How are you giving him 15, 20 yards there? Like, what are you doing?
And you
rushed 3 and you had a spy? A spy?
You're just lighting a guy on fire.
That's a free player.
Just want to play with 10 guys.
And then one of your other guys is out taunting the fans. Like that
midway through the play, too.
The screenshot of him with his back to the play and 3 guys running downfield.
They're 20 yards downfield.
I mean, that might be the most Bears thing that has ever happened.
If the Eagles lost in that manner, I think we would have done, you, Vinny, Fran, Bo, and Zach would have done, that might have been a 5-hour show after that one.
I don't know if my head would have stayed on my shoulders.
No.
Rest of the Green Bay Packers, they're ranked 6th right now on NFL.com.
They're getting a lot of credit for a team that the Eagles beat on a neutral field.
You beat the Packers.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at the Vikings, who have kind of come back to earth a little bit. A great defense. Brian Flores is the boogeyman and all that.
Confident, not great.
And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles 10th on NFL.com right now. So last week changed a ton in the way we view this team. I think it's the first time in a while there's been a palpable excitement and buzz about the Birds in town. Because even after that Packers win, I don't know if it was out in Brazil, the field looking sloppy. It just felt kind of weird. Kind of felt like you got lucky almost to win it. I didn't think like the real like kind of oomph behind with the town behind it was there. I think after last week and that beatdown you gave the Bengals, because look, say what you want, they don't have an offensive line, they don't have a running game, not a great defense, but Joe Burrow was like 1st in QBR and 4th in EPA per play. Like
I thought he was awesome in that game.
I thought he was awesome too. I think the guy's a stud.
That's why I was so impressed with the Eagles defense. Honestly, they were dealing with a guy who was throwing dimes. Like the first drive, what was that, a 17-play drive?
Yeah, almost 11 minutes. It was like 10 minutes and 48 seconds.
And I know it was frustrating that the Eagles were not getting off the field during that drive, but man, my takeaway was like, he's making some great throws.
I think he was 5 for 5 on 3rd down. He was like 10 of 11 on the drive or something like that. It was
not the typical Jonathan Gannon dink and dunk when they're just the easiest, most uncontested throws in the world. It felt like, okay, this is a dude who's playing at a super high level. The Eagles are going to have to adjust. And that's why I'm excited about this team, man, because the defense, like they just had the will to keep going on. Like they took a haymaker on that first drive and they just said, okay, we're going to keep coming at you. And eventually they just wore that Bengals offense down. The Bengals made a few mistakes. It was awesome to see that they were able to just keep going, run through the tape. And by the end of that game, they get those 2 turnovers too.
Yeah. So, there's a lot to kind of infer from these last 3 weeks ever since the bye. One, I don't want to take credit away from the coaching staff. They went in saying we have to self-scout. Maybe the Kellen Moore offense took 5-6 weeks to get accustomed to. Maybe the same can be said for Vic Fangio's defense.
Did somebody else talk to Kellen Moore or Nick Sirianni?
Yeah, I think they did. So I do want to give the coaching staff credit because, like Nick Sirianni, look, before the bye week, he said, I know what the tackling issue is, and we're going to work on it. Their missed tackles have disappeared in these past 3 weeks.
It's funny you say that too.
And I think Cooper DeJean is like, I don't want to be like irrationally nuts here, but I think he's changed everything about this defense.
Yeah. Well, it is funny too because we harp on the missed tackles when they're bad, right?
Sure.
They're glaring. You're professional football players. How can't you get guys to the ground? Is it because you guys didn't tackle in training camp and weren't physical enough? I don't think we give them enough credit. Like their tackling has been awesome the past few weeks. Some of those plays, and you said it. I mean, Cooper DeJean, like
that guy doesn't miss tackles.
Yeah, if he can cover, then you have a real football player because you can use him as a blitzer. You can use him out in space. Obviously, like Jamar Chase, who's a very good player. Now that was a poorly schemed up play. All those things. Sure, he had no chance on that one. Like Coop made 2 or 3 other awesome tackles. That was, when he had that angle, he had him.
So it's funny you say, there's a great Devontae Smith touchdown, Saquon tiptoeing down. There's a ton of plays to kind of go back and rewatch. The one I found myself rewatching the most was Cooper DeJean sniffing that play out on Jamar Chase. It was incredible to stay with him, to stay in motion, to jump the route, to not only to make that tackle, but make it pretty much for a loss. Like that play had me irrationally excited about this defense. But, and we'll talk about this with Zach Berman as well when he joins momentarily, Brian Baldinger had a very, very interesting tweet that I showed you before the show not long ago. We'll flash it here for you, but Baldy put out a video of
an October surprise of his own.
Yeah, I don't even know if he realizes exactly what he did, but it's getting some traction on Twitter now. Somebody responded to a video of Baldy of the offense and said, hey, Baldy, why did it take them 8 weeks to do this? Meaning change the offense, more motion, more play action, more under center, more all of it. And Baldy with an answer, a few guys were tired of the offense and spoke up. I think we can all surmise a little bit, that Baldy has some some friends in the building. I think that's very good information there from Mr. Baldinger.
Yeah.
And
no, I think you can trust that information. I would say.
And I think that speaks to the vets in the locker room saying, "Hey, Nick." And look, I'm not trying to make this that's kudos to Nick for listening to it. And that the reason I bring all this up is the self-scouting from the bye, whether it's, people talking to Nick saying things have to change, whether it's tackling things, they've done a tremendous job turning this around. I know two of the teams were kind of trash with Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones, but this was a viable, top 6-7 quarterback in the NFL on Sunday. And let's bring him in as we're talking about it. Zach Berman is down at the Novacare Center. Zach, I sent you the tweet just so I didn't catch you off guard here with it. But Brian Baldinger, in response to someone on Twitter, said, the change in the offense, basically some people in the building were tired of the offense they were running and went to Nick Sirianni. And if that is the case, Zach, I have to laud Nick Sirianni for the self-scouting out of the bye, for the changes, for listening to his players. Whatever happened, it worked. This is a whole new team.
Yeah, one thing you heard coming out of the bye was the conversations that they had, the amount of conversations that were had in the building. You heard Jalen Hurts reference it. I recall, speaking to Lane Johnson about some of the things that the offense could do better, and going beyond the conversation about turnovers, right? Like a big topic of conversation was always, all right, running the ball. I mean, I've covered Lane for 12 years. It's the solution whenever the offense is in a funk, as Lane would say, run the ball, right? Put it on the offensive line. B, as Jalen Hurts said, the imposer. Jalen Hurts said that this past week in reference to the effectiveness of going under center, play action, things of that nature, right? You're the aggressor, you're the imposer. And I think there's validity to that. It was clear after the Tampa game that the way they were playing offensively was not working. Now, I think a lot of this has to do, frankly, with Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts more than anyone. I mean, we talk about Nick Sirianni, but ultimately this is Kellen Moore calling the plays and this is Jalen Hurts executing the plays. And I think that for a period of time there, it's trying to accentuate the quarterback. And I think the way to accentuate the quarterback is utilizing those elements that Baldy referenced.
To go off of Jamie's point, Zach, I just feel like they have tried some new things over the past few weeks, particularly last week, and to have success with those things, whether it's under center, whether it's play action, whether it's throwing the ball over the middle, you would have to think that after they have been so successful, they would have to keep doing this, right?
Yes. Now, the reality is this. There would be times when they don't control the game flow, right? When you're playing with a lead,
Sure.
you can't control the game flow. If you're in a situation like in Tampa, for instance, when you're playing from behind, play action is not as effective. Running the ball. Now, I say that it was pretty clear in that Tampa game. They come out of half, they run the ball, they score a touchdown, right? Saquon has that huge run. But by and large, if you're not controlling the game script, then some of the elements of what they want to do are not nearly as effective. So it's easier to do that during these past 2 weeks. But you are absolutely correct, Rich. Like if you saw the documentary, if you will, that the Eagles put out, the unscripted,
It was awesome.
behind the scenes footage. Yeah, and you saw Kellen Moore in his meeting last Wednesday saying we're going to be under center more this week,
Good.
Right? And so it's not something that the three of us are talking about on the show. It's like it's very clear this is kind of the direction they've been going.
Yeah, I don't think there's any denying it, Zach. Kay Adams put this graphic out earlier today. Weeks 1 through 6, their pass attempts a game were at 31.5. In week 7.5, it's cut in half at 17.5. The rushing attempts per game is up 9 rushing attempts per game. And that was my point kind of last week when you and I were debating this. I just think play action is the most beautiful football play in the world. And you can't run it if you're not under center and a team isn't, thinking you're going to run it more often. So kudos to Kellen Moore, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, whoever the hell deserves it. Maybe Lane Johnson saying, hey, Doug, we got to change this. The self-scouting worked. This is an entirely different team. And I think what made Sunday the most impressive to me is what you said. They didn't control the flow of that game from the jump. The Bengals marched down the field for 11 minutes, 5 for 5 on third down, ripped you apart and kind of set what you thought was going to be the pace of the game. And the Eagles kind of stuck to their guns, took the punch, and countered right back. And it changed the season, for me at least.
Well, two things there. First off, I hear what you're saying regarding the numbers that Kay Adams outlined. I do think, though, that has a lot to do with them being ahead. Like, they go on that 7-minute drive last week, and you see they were running the ball. I think Saquon got 9 carries on that drive on that long drive. So that's gonna inflate your overall running numbers. But you are correct overall. Like they are, it's clear using in terms of going under center, play action. It's something that they're doing more. The key last week too was they scored on their opening drive, which was the first time they've done this season. So even though the Bengals went down, had that 10-minute drive, 5 for 5 on third downs, the Eagles at least get the field goal. They're not in a situation where they're down 2 scores from the start. And a real underrated part of that game too, by the way, was the second drive the Bengals had, keeping the Bengals to a field goal there. Yeah. And the score then is 10-3 and not 14-3. And because if it's 14-3, it might change the way Kellen Moore approaches the game at that point.
Zach, I'm curious what you thought of Vic Fangio's comments about the trade deadline yesterday, because you have a piece on allphly.com for our diehards, kind of listing a lot of the potential targets, very D-end heavy, edge rusher type heavy. But Vic yesterday basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, it's kind of hard to get an impact player at this point of the season. A lot of the times that, you make a big trade at this point, it's hard, and it doesn't always become a great return on your investment. So what did you make of him saying that in particular? Because I think most people would say edge rusher is still probably the biggest need on this team.
Okay. Yeah, it's a valid point. I mean, if you just look at the history, so let's look at the last 7-8 years, right? You look last year, Kevin Byard. How did that materialize for the Eagles?
Bad.
You look the year before that, Robert Quinn. How did that materialize for the Eagles? Right? You go back.
Gennard Avery.
Yeah, so I'm working my way back here, right? 2021 they acquired Garrett Vincent Jr., right? 2020 they didn't make a trade. COVID really affected the Eagles. They'll tell you that. 2019 Gennard Avery. 2018 Golden Tate. So really, you have to go back to 2017 Jay Ajayi, where there was
there was one good one.
Where so typically you're making a trade that you think that it's going to either help put you over the edge to a certain degree, kind of fortifies the position where you're weak, and you're not getting the ROI that you want. Now there are cases like the Eagles were very much in the Jalen Ramsey discussions a few years ago. They were very much in the Minkah Fitzpatrick discussions a few years ago. They didn't land either player, but when you trade for like that blue chip guy, then I think that's what Vic's talking about. When you're kind of giving the 4th round pick for the either past his prime veteran, let's say like Zadarius Smith this year. Zadarius Smith now, he's having a good year. He's having a better year than Quinn was having when the Eagles traded for him. But sometimes you're getting more name than you are production. And then it's hard sometimes for a player to fit in. I do think the Eagles are going to scan the market. One name that I put out there in that piece that I would pay attention to is Baron Browning. Baron Browning is he's an edge rusher with the Broncos, but he was drafted by Vic Fangio as an inside backer. And so there's a little Zach Bond to his game where he can help you in multiple spots, and I think he would give you some insurance. He's a pending free agent, so I can't imagine the price would be that high. He's in a rotational role now, so that's a player I would watch out for.
So, Zach, takeaways from Nick Sirianni's press conference today. I know you tweeted out there's no real injury updates, but some pretty big names on watch with Dallas Goedert, Mekhi Becton, and Darius Slay. I guess, 1, your takeaways from the press conference. 2, any indication on how those guys are kind of trending here?
Yeah, not much from Nick today as far as like hard news. He talked about Doug Peterson and how Doug Peterson helped him out when he got the job. He talked about the physicality that the Eagles want to play with, but there's not much as far as like move the needle news updates from today's show or from today's press conference. As far as like the players I'm watching in practice, you hit on the head. Mekhi Becton, he's now more than a week past the injury. You want to see how he's doing. Dallas Goedert's interesting because the Eagles didn't put him on IR. So the fact that they didn't put him on IR when he suffered the injury makes you think that he can return within that 4-week time frame. This is the 3rd week of it. So I want to see if he's back. Slay underwent the MRI earlier this week. We will see if he's practicing. If he's not, you'll see Isaiah Rodgers out there with the first teamers.
Well, I saw Dallas Goedert in his Halloween costume picking up his girlfriend in the baby harness. So, I mean, from my medical evaluation, looks like the hammy's feeling pretty good there.
Yeah, that could be a way to strengthen it, right? So, So maybe that's I did see that as well. Yeah.
He was cleared to do a hangover Halloween costume. Zach, last one. You, for me at least, you covered Doug for 5 years with him coming back.
Kelly Green Week too.
On Kelly Green Week as well. Any memories that stick out? Maybe kind of a behind the scenes thing, a small thing. And
did he ever give you ice cream?
As somebody who interacted with him a lot.
Yeah, I interacted. Yeah, I appreciate the question. I've had ice cream around Doug Peterson, but I haven't had Doug Peterson offer me ice cream. I've been at
Where did you get the ice cream? Did you come to the table with it?
No. So the NFL has the owners' meetings every year where the head coach is there, and they have this big reception on the second night there, and they serve dessert. And I'm not one to turn down a good dessert, right? And so
rude.
So I've eaten ice cream in the company of Doug Peterson before, but I haven't had Doug say, "Hey Zach, let's go out for Haagen-Dazs, you and I."
So was Doug eating the ice cream while you were eating the ice cream? And what flavor was it?
I think Doug was Doug. I don't think Doug was turning to dessert for calories that night. But I say that respectfully. So let's. So, anyways, Doug. I covered Doug's entire time. Doug. I always enjoyed being around Doug. First off, Super Bowl winning coach. Right. Had a lot of success. I've had. I learned a lot from him. Watching his team, watching the way he managed that group, especially in 2017. Doug was always, from a personal perspective, Doug was always kind to me. There was so my daughter was born between the Bears playoff game and the Saints playoff game in 2019. Okay. My wife did a good job sneaking in between the games, so I didn't have to miss a game. And and so I missed a Wednesday press conference, and I sit in the first seat to the left every press conference, okay? And it was the only press conference that I missed during his 5 years here. And so Doug walked in, and he turned to my seat, and he was like, "Where is he?" Right? And someone said that my wife was having a baby. And so to this day, whenever Doug sees me, he asks me how the baby is. And it's like, I mean, Sloan's 5 years old now, right? So she's not really a baby anymore. But Doug, Doug will still associate me with my daughter being born. But I enjoyed covering Doug, and I mean, there's a statue outside Lincoln Financial Field with him for a reason, because he did something no other coach has done.
So speaking of Sloan and Reed, Zach, what is the Halloween costumes this year in the Berman house? What are we rocking? Yeah,
Reed's a baseball player. Now he's got the pants, he's got the whole thing.
Is
and
he like
he's got
MLB, like generic, like Rob Lowe, just like an MLB outfit?
No, so well that's why, because he's got two jerseys. He's got a few jerseys. He's got two that he's choosing between. He's got the Savannah Bananas one that he's considering. And then he loves the City Connect jerseys. Like, anyone who ever complains like these City Connect jerseys are so ugly, they're not geared toward the 38-year-olds, right? They're geared toward the 7-year-olds. Every kid in his class loves these City Connect jerseys. Okay. All right. So so he's got the City Connect jersey, and then Sloan is going. It's a cheerleader, but it's a specific type of cheerleader. It's from the show. Her name's Madison. What's the show? It's like a zombie cheerleader. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to type in like Madison cheerleader in my Google because I don't know what will come up, and I'm like, but but it's a very specific type of it's a very specific cheerleader from the show and a few girls from her class are wearing this costume. There's other dads of like 5-year-old girls out there, and if you know the show, please put it in the chat. But again, I
have a almost 6-year-old here. Addison. Julia reports.
Thank you. From what? From what, Julia?
Disney. It's on Disney Plus or something.
Yeah. Okay. So that's exactly what it is. Okay. Good. So I said Madison. It's Addison. And so we have a short or I give you a long answer to a quick question, but a baseball player and a cheerleader.
That's awesome. All right. Last one because we got to take care of some business. What's Zach Berman's favorite Halloween candy?
So I like desserts more than candy. I'm not a huge candy guy. I like cookies, cakes, ice cream. But if I had to pick a dessert, if I had to pick a candy, I would just go M&M's.
Really?
Easy
regular.
to eat on the run. Yeah,
no peanut,
regular.
No pretzel, no caramel, just regular.
Definitely not peanut. Do people give out pretzel M&M's for
pretzel M&M's
for Halloween? I
don't go too hard.
I just think like back when I was trick or treating. It was a lot of like the mini M&M packages. You know what I'm saying? There were a lot of those, and I preferred that to bars.
All right, that's great stuff, Zach Berman. Make sure you're reading them on all PHLY.com. Tremendous job, Zach, and it's a fun week in Eagles land for sure. We'll see you back here tomorrow at the helm at 2:00.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
There he is, and I could have continued on that conversation for a while. That was fun. Let's take a moment to tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. And that, of course, is my friends over at Bet365. You can find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. There's a convenient little QR code for you, or you can use the code PHLY365 at sign up, and you can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use that code PHLY365 to sign up, deposit $10, and place a $5 bet and get $200 in bonus bets. You can use those on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. They've pioneered live in-game betting. They have over 90 million worldwide users, and that just says they know what they're doing. They have the best early payout offer in sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, or hockey. If you hit the sports criteria, boom, you'll get cashed out right then and there on the spot. Don't even have to wait for the end of the game. So every day, they're powering up odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more than 10,000 boosts every single month. We boost specific markets, or they boost, we boost, I boost, you boost. Your winnings and even parlays. Keep your eye out for custom PHLY bets and boosts. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Get those $200 in bonus bucks when you bet $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And Jamie, I am here to tell you about our friends at Empire Today, who can help you with all of your carpeting and flooring needs. You can use empiretoday.com/PHLY for $350 off all new floors. Okay, with Empire Today, you get to shop for home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, there are some copycats out there, Jamie. They're not worried about that, though. They cannot beat Empire Today on the quality, service, speed. And so they advertise lower quality products that Empire Today simply will not carry. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What Empire leaves out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might talk to someone who was working in plumbing yesterday. Not Empire. They specialize in carpeting and flooring. It is all they do. They live and breathe this stuff. So you can be confident that you are getting honest, upfront advice. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details.
All right, this is the PHLY Eagles Podcast presented by Bet365. Rich, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
I think just a general Reese's cup would
Just
be.
the singular? I feel like the singulars taste better than the pear pack.
Sure. Well, I mean, I like a king size too.
Ooh.
Good for. Yeah, I mean, on Halloween, you're usually getting
Something more crammable about just the one, you know? It's
Well, I
It's
wouldn't,
my mind.
I wouldn't ask, people. Obviously, the houses when you were young, when
anybody with the full size.
when you were trick or treating and people were giving out the full size
Yeah.
candies, whether they were
that guy's a legend.
Hershey bars
Yeah.
or M&Ms or.
Julia, favorite Halloween candy?
I go like all fave red Starbursts,
Ooh.
like the 2-pack, or Payday.
Payday. That's a wild card.
Love a Payday.
So I categorize it two ways. I have chocolate. I go Take 5. Gummy World. Give me the nerd gummy clusters. Oh, baby. And those are the things I got. I had to get my candy early so that I was giving out stuff that, I would want to snack on over the last couple weeks. All right, let's get back into Brian Baldiner's comments there. If you just missed it before Zach, we were talking about Brian's, comment on Twitter that some of the guys were, sick of the way the offense was moving over 6 weeks. I just read to Zach the stat from Kay Adams. There's been a drastic shift these last 2 weeks, and they're a more run-heavy team. And my point in talking about this last Wednesday, Rich, was you do it great. Do it, and the pass game will follow. So, do what you do best. It should open up one play action, more under center. People respecting and biting on Saquon. It's going to make everybody in the receiving game's life easier. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing here is Jalen Hurts has played 3 games in a row without turnovers. He's up there now in EPA per play and QBR. He's skyrocketing up. It was like they just needed to get the offense, kind of jump-started somewhere. And I think they're going about it the right way right now.
I think there is a story in the long run for ZB and all of those intrepid reporters down at Novacare if there was some behind-the-scenes maneuvering to change this offense. But like I said to Zach, Jamie, it's working.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Jalen looks good doing this stuff. That was Jalen's best QBR of his career the other day. So, at some point, right, you can't
deny reality.
You can't have all that success and say, I still didn't like how they felt, right?
And that's what my point was, Laurie and Roseman, of course they want to air raid and greatest show on. They want it to look like that. But it doesn't mean it's what you do best. Do what works. And what works right now is what the Eagles offense has shown you these last 3 weeks.
21 under center snaps the other day. Now, I know tush push, there's a few of those. There were a few.
I'm getting irked by the tush push.
Few Will Shipley carries. What's wrong with the tush push?
It's like that scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin. He's going to the dice move too often. That's all he's got. I feel like it's all they got sometimes in short yardage, give Saquon Barkley a touchdown on the 1 yard line. There's other ways to score. It's just boring me. And I know it's effective, and everybody in the comments is probably going to be like, shut up, it works. It bores the hell out of me.
I definitely think they should have given the ball to Saquon on the final run. I mean, come on. What, were you up 10 at that point?
Yeah.
On the 1 yard line, he just made this amazing run where he simultaneously trucked a guy and was tiptoeing down the sideline too. I think he kind of earned that one. But I like the tush push, man. I
like it in doses. It feels. I'm not going to complain because we're winning.
I do think we take for granted though those drives where I believe there was one in the last game against Cincinnati where it's 3rd and 10. They throw a comeback to AJ. It's 9 yards, and then it's a long yard. We're gonna get it.
Yeah, and Flyers in 7. Thank you. He said it works. Shut up. I'm aware it worked. I'm just telling you, this is the trust tree. I'm bearing my soul here. It bores me, and I think it's ugly football. But that's fine, and it works.
The only argument I have against it is I just hope Jalen doesn't get hurt from it.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
I
don't think he will. He's been doing it for long enough.
And he's got the legs to back it up. And, there were some funny memes going around of, I'll have to show you after the show, of Jalen Hurts, under the huddle. I'll show you.
Some NSFW
stuff. We're going to talk to Vinny Curry in a couple minutes. But Vinny's a great guy to have on this week, Rich. He knows Doug Peterson very well. Zach hasn't been offered ice cream by Doug Peterson, but I'm sure Vinny Curry has. So we're going to I gave Vinny a little bit of a homework assignment. I said, hey, you're Vic Fangio this week. Scheme me up a defense that can beat And he's here. So why don't we take care of some business, and we'll get to Vinny in a second, because I'm really, he knows the Doug Peterson offense very well. He's been in the NFL when Trevor Lawrence played. He knows what he's looking at when it comes to these two. So Vinny's going to tell us how to take down the Jaguars. I think Ross Tucker said it best. The Jaguars and the Jets are the two best roster worst teams in the NFL, because the Jaguars do have a decent amount of talent on this roster. They're just a bad football team right now.
But at least they're not the Jets.
You can always take solace in that. The Jets are
embarrassing.
And funny. We can talk to Vinny about the Jets. We will right after this quick little timeout to tell you about our friends here at PHLY. And Ace Hardware has been one of my favorites as a homeowner now for over a decade. There's always a project. And Ace was always my place to go to, because they have the trusted pros in there that know what they're talking about. They could always answer my questions. I always got one-on-one help. And, those guys know the answer to everything. So the beauty of Ace Hardware Home Services is that you can take those trusted pros from Ace Hardware and bring them right to your doorstep. Whether you have a leaky pipe, an air conditioning issue, a faucet that you said you were going to fix last fall and you never got around to, well, now Ace is bringing those helpful hardware folks right to your door. From plumbing to heating to cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services. We're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love from the store, now right to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project.
And I'm going to tell you about the folks at Rothman, Jamie. Everyone has a specialty that they love. For some, it's running or gardening. Maybe that's you. For others...
No.
Okay. For others, it's shooting hoops or crossing up a defender. That used to be me. Not me.
I like
quite
to get
as much
shots
anymore.
up. No more crossing over.
Yeah. At Rothman Orthopedics, their physicians are not only specialized in orthopedics and clinical research, but they are fellowship trained to treat specific areas of the body. Since 1970, their physicians have remained committed to research, innovation, and minimally invasive procedures to get you back to what you specialize in. The two great things about Rothman, Jamie, whatever is ailing you, shoulder, back, foot, whatever it is.
I got a shoulder issue right
Whatever
now.
it is, yeah. Julia's got an issue back there.
We're all falling apart.
We won't get into that. But whatever is ailing you, they have a specialist. And there are locations all over the Delaware Valley. Our guy, Devon Givens, who I am going to do the Sixers show with in a few hours, he tore his Achilles last year. And we see him now. He's walking around. He's shooting hoops.
He's
playing,
balling again.
Playing Pop-A-Shot. So that's one thing. And the other thing, Jamie, they have locations all over the Delaware Valley. So they will have a place that is convenient for you to get to. Rothman Orthopedics, specialized in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
All right, this is the PHLY Eagles Podcast, and let's bring them in. And my first question, I think I might have candy on the brain a lot. Renee gave me a Snickers earlier, and I've been thinking about candy all day. Our friend Vinny Curry joins the show. Vinny, what's up, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. Can y'all see me?
Yeah, we got you. Vinny, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Reese's.
Okay,
Yes,
you and Rich.
Yes, Vinny. Yes.
Now,
Yeah, Reese's.
Brian Westbrook has a take, Vinny, that is one of the worst I've ever heard. And he says that chocolate and peanut butter don't belong together. Would you like a shot at Brian? He's vehement. You might have to text him right now.
That's blasphemous, Vinny.
It's an outrageous take.
That's crazy. Dang, B. West.
You might just have to send him a shaking my damn head emoji or something, Vinny. All right, Vinny, your man, Dougie P. He's immortalized in this town forever. Super Bowl champion. You guys share a ring together. What's it like seeing Dougie P come in for the opposition this weekend into the link?
Man, he's going to have those guys fired up, ready to play. I know emotion is going to be high for him on there. You know, the new guys get to come see him. He got his trophy, his statue outside the stadium. Man, it's going to be crazy.
Vinny, what was your initial read on Doug Peterson when he came in here? And then obviously, it developed over the years that you guys worked together. But when he first came here in 2016, I think he wasn't considered maybe the hottest coaching hire at that time, but he obviously proved that he did a great job. I guess, what was your initial take of him and how did that change over the years?
Well, remember, Doug P was there when I first got to the Eagles, so it was kind of like normal. Like, oh, okay, Doug back. You know what I mean? He was part of that, that Andy Reid staff that was
Yep.
there back in 2012. So it was cool to see him, in that role. And, it was like majority of us was like, when we got drafted, we was like babies until now, we was the guys. So it was like a cool transition.
So, Vinny, let's play this game. Vic Fangio calls you into his office this week, and he says, Vinny, you practiced against it all the time. You saw it firsthand on the sidelines every week. Help me stop the Doug Peterson offense. They're not a good team right now, but there's still, obviously some good play designs in there. What should the Eagles be looking for this weekend? What areas do you think Doug Peterson's going to try to exploit with this Eagles defense?
Quick game. Doug P is going to try to get the ball out of Trevor's hands as fast as possible. Quick game. And then when they do open it up, Trevor likes to spin back there, so the guy is going to have to, have a good rush plan. Got to rush high. He holds on to it, and, he tries to spins out of everything to try to extend the play. But I definitely think Doug Peterson is going to try to attack us with the quick game.
How do you counter that from, like, say, a linebacker secondary standpoint? If they're going to try and pull the Baker Mayfield, 2.1 second release, what's your counter if the rush isn't getting home every time per se?
Get your hands up. I want to say he's like super high in percentage for most batted balls in the league. If he's not 2, he got to be number 3. Get your hands up. It's going to take for our DBs and linebackers to really tackle. Get real handsy, play physical. That's going to frustrate Trevor, and to get in his timing off. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be a pretty good matchup for us in our favor. We could just do those things.
Vinny, have you seen that the coverage would change on the back end too when they it's clear that they're going to go quick game, right? Do you see,
Right.
Obviously we make a big deal about off coverage, and Fran sometimes swats us down about, hey, it's not that big of a deal. It could be successful either way. But when a team is really trying to get the ball out of a quarterback's hands quickly, have you seen defensive coordinators make adjustments and say, hey, look, we got to get closer to the line of scrimmage here?
Absolutely, you got to understand though. They got some guys out. They got some receivers out. Want to say they got a new tackle coming in, so the Eagles got to look out for that. But at the same time, if with some wide receivers, some key pieces being out, then that Ingram is going to be one of the highly favored targets in that game. So we got to knock him around a little bit. And I'm pretty sure the Eagles know how to do that pretty much, from his time at the Giants.
Yeah. Vinny, Trevor Lawrence, lost 2 games from high school to college, and then he gets to the NFL, and it's a little bit of a dose in reality. At times can show you, upper echelon, elite quarterback play. Other times makes weird, like last weekend had a terrible fumble. Just never really all clicked for him. What do you see from Trevor Lawrence? How could he cause the Eagles some pain this weekend? What do you think about him in general?
So when you think of Trevor Lawrence, you just can't let him get hot. You know what I mean? You give him hope, you start letting him get hot, then he's gonna get confidence in himself. Now he's very confident in the game plan, and that could be a long day. So that quick game kind of helps him feel like mentally, okay, I'm completing passes. This thing is going in my favor. We just got to knock him around a little bit. I was about to curse off. Sorry about that. You got to knock him around a little bit. You knock him around a little bit, you get real handsy, and control the quick game. Couple 3 and outs, take the confidence away. Eagles win.
Vinny, Vic Fangio the other day, he got asked a question about the trade deadline, and he basically is like, honestly, most times you make a trade in the middle of the season, even if it's a good player, it's hard to get them, on this defense and on the same page as everybody. It doesn't always work out as well. What has been your experience kind of seeing players come in the middle of the season, guys who have not had a full training camp, a full off-season program with you guys, and how difficult that adjustment can be?
I seen it both ways. I seen it both ways. I want to say I seen the year we won the Super Bowl. Gennard got traded halfway through the season, came in. You know, and then I also say seeing Jay Ajayi get traded halfway through the season. His first play was for that to the house.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So I definitely seen it both ways. It just depends on the player, the preparation, how hard he prepares. Going into that week's game.
So Vinny, Ross Tucker earlier said the Jaguars and the Jets are the two most talented bad teams in the NFL. The Jets, they're just a mess, man. Is there any righting the ship up there? Or is this the thing where we're going to go every week like, well, Aaron Rodgers is going to turn the corner one of these days? What do you think is happening up there in New York? Is there any salvaging it, or is this season over?
No, I think Aaron Rodgers earned this might be the week. This might be the week
He
he earned that.
has.
You know what I mean? But I would say that the throws get a little porch. We definitely because we want to see, we want to see it happen because of who he is and what he's done for the game of football. So you know.
Vinny,
Yeah.
Vinny, I had another question for you. Is he frozen now?
No, there
Okay,
we
no,
go.
he's good. So the Eagles sent that video out of Doug giving you guys ice cream. I believe that's the night before the game. As somebody who played, what is the night before the game like for a player? It seems like you guys are in meetings and those things, but I think that's a kind of a small thing. A lot of fans would be interested to know what that Saturday night is like for you guys.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure 90% of the players is just thinking about doing their job to the best of their ability. Reserve players is thinking about being at competitive excellence once their number get called when it's daytime, so it's no drop off and so there's so many different things going on at one time, but at the same time, one sound, one heartbeat is what you should be thinking about because when everybody's clicking, it'll be like last week when you see the birds, everybody was clicking, everybody's flying around, everyone having fun. Key players was making plays in that game. A player go down, key players step up. Like that's what this is about, and that's what you understand. Football is about family, and that's the kind of culture that was created in Philadelphia. So that's all going through your head at one time, and you know what it is. I got your back, you got my back, and depend on your brother, and depend on one another to understand what the task is at hand. That's why they always say keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, Vinny, coming in because Doug Peterson, coming back from London for 2 weeks last week, his guy showed up and fought for him. And, he's on the hot seat. And I think what you're saying is the Jaguars are going to play for him because if he, instilled in what he is down there, that means the Jaguars are going to be a little bit of a live dog, in my opinion, this weekend because they're going to be kind of fighting for Doug. Does that hold weight with you? Does that carry?
I mean, you can fight for them, but they ain't the birds, man. So understand this. Just as bad as they want to fight for him, the Eagles is gonna fight for this win because this don't think this don't mean something to some of them players and ownership down there at Novacare. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
pretty interesting to see.
All right, so what is young Noah Curry being for Halloween? Is he Lamar Jackson, his favorite player, or what? What are we working with?
Man, believe it or not, he's Spider-Man. Miles Morales.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
Like in the
The big buff
multiverse
one.
or the
Yeah,
OG?
in the multiverse. Yeah,
Okay.
the multiverse.
Because I'm deep in the Spideyverse these days with my kids. So are we talking Peter Parker? Are we going Miles Morales? Are we going
Miles Morales.
All
I
right,
think it's
spins
Miles
legit.
Morales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spins legit.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. All right, Vinny, this is the last time we're going to talk to you before the conclusion of Sunday's game. Jaguars not very good, 2-6. Eagles turned the corner, 5-2. What do you got for your prediction on Sunday?
For Sunday, I'm going to say 35-14.
Oh, a little beat down. Love it.
I would love that.
I think you got to understand something, man. The Eagles only played at the Link, twice this year or so
Yeah.
far?
Twice.
Yeah.
The
And it's
Eagles
Kelly
is
Green week.
rolling. Yeah, they are rolling. They are rolling. November football is here in front of the Link. And it's Doug Peterson, man, they're going to be playing with their hair on fire.
Love it. Love it. Vinny, great stuff. We'll see you game day on Sunday to beat up on the Jags right here on PHLY. Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. Thank y'all for having me.
Later, Vinny.
See you, man.
That's a good one. Miles Morales. Are you deep into the Spideyverse?
No, I heard that.
It's pretty great. I got to tell you.
Those movies got like super well reviews.
They're
right?
awesome.
They got great reviews.
They're
right?
awesome.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen them.
They're actually, as an adult, you can watch it and it's fully fine.
Okay.
to the people in the comments section saying I'm an idiot because I don't like the tush push. Yeah, fine. Call me an idiot. I don't care. I just don't aesthetically like it. That's all. Just I can't bear my true soul here, Rich. I thought we were in the trust tree.
It's okay, man. It's okay. It's okay. I actually think Bo kind of agrees with you a little bit too. He thinks it's kind of lazy.
Yeah, like just give Saquon a touchdown, you know?
Well, on that one, yeah. but I'm more with the people.
It's a 90% success rate. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm not denying reality. I just don't like it. All right.
One last thing about the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Because I've made this point before, but
Miles Garrett isn't happening. Maxx Crosby isn't happening.
Those are not happening, right? So I don't want to shop in the middle aisle because the Robert Quinn the third, fourth round pick, obviously Jahan Dotson shopping in the middle aisle. It's just been a disaster for all Philadelphia teams. So who's the guy? I didn't even know his name. Who's the guy? Baron Browning.
Yeah.
See, I don't think that would cost a lot. Would be my guess.
To be honest, did he go to Alabama? Baron Browning. I don't know who he is. Like when Zach was talking about it, I was like, is that the guy that played at Alabama?
So a little bit of edge rush depth, but Zach put him in the under the radar pending free agents
he's from Ohio State
category. So I
don't know anything about him.
Okay. Well, that's the type of guy I would rather have because honestly, Jamie, I do wonder a little bit about edge rusher. Now, I don't want to over-index too much on these last few weeks, but they're getting pressure with their scheme.
Sweating Smith's speed is working finally. It seems like they're around the quarterback a lot. Is it something you can count on week in and week out?
But they're getting pressure with their scheme too. They're getting pressure with N'Kobe and Zach on these simulated pressures too. And look, we have what are we? We are 7 games into the season. We've had one absolute game wrecker performance from Jalen Carter so far. I think he's been good in these last few weeks.
Yeah.
As the rest of the front also kind of ups their game as well. But I think we have a few more of those in us this year.
Yeah, it would be nice to see.
A couple more of those New Orleans games.
Yeah, it does feel like if you go out and steamroll the Jags, that, and we started the show talking about the NFC being wide open. The path to the number 2 seed in the NFC is right there, dangling in front of your face. And, these next 2 or 3 weeks go a long way to getting that. And look, once you get the number 2 seed, you're kind of guaranteed 2 playoff games at home at the Link, where it's a great home field advantage.
Not if you're Dallas.
Well, yeah. Dallas has got their own problems to work. But the NFC to me is wide open. Detroit is clearly number 1. And then there's a lot of teams that are the same. And if the Eagles do actually click this together and it continues for another couple of weeks, there's no reason you can't be the number 2 seed. And to say that after what I thought 2 weeks ago is really kind of incredible.
To me, I think Detroit is clearly the class of the conference at this point.
Yeah.
They are a lot of fun to watch. They win in multiple ways. They have fun. They're beating the out of teams.
Jameson Williams, I think, did he get arrested last night, or he might have left the scene of an accident with a gun in the car or something?
Well, maybe they're peaking too early.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the start of the downside. But outside of them, and look, they're just one team.
It's Eagles, Packers, Commanders. And then the NFC North, pick your other team. The Bears defense is great. The Vikings defense is great. And Justin Jefferson. It's just all kind of teams around the same. I think there's a lot of parity in the NFL this year, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, and even teams like Atlanta has a good record.
Sure, but you already beat them, so you get the tiebreaker advantage.
You lost to them.
Or excuse me, you lost to Atlanta,
but
lost to Tampa Bay.
My point is, though, against Atlanta, you basically beat them.
You did.
Yeah, you basically beat them, and then you found a way to lose, which was bad. But you would have confidence playing against them again, I would say.
Yes.
Especially with how much better the pass rush has been.
Absolutely. A couple things before we get out of here. I saw this tweet going around yesterday from Bleacher Report. I believe Julia has a screenshot of it that we can share, so I don't have to read it verbatim for you, but even though I will for the podcast listeners. This is kind of becoming a talking point now that Bryce Young got benched after 14 games in the NFL. Anthony Richardson got benched pretty quickly after his tenure, knowing he was a project. And here it is. It's courtesy of Sam Block. And he says,
Kenny Pickett.
Well, that's what I want to get into. The question was framed as, does the NFL have a quarterback developmental problem? And it's on the heels of the Richardson benching for Joe Flacco. Bryce Young. I think the first two, you can make valid cases that maybe they're being mishandled. The rest of the list are just bad quarterbacks. I mean, Trey Lance didn't show you anything. Clearly, he got moved to Dallas to be a backup. But if San Francisco felt any ounce of confidence in him, they drafted him 3rd overall. They're not going to trade him for a sack of marbles. Justin Fields is going to be one of those journeyman, sometimes starters in the league. Will Levis is straight up horrible. Zach Wilson,
he throws the most amazing interceptions.
His turnovers are incredible.
They're like performance art. It's like he's playing he's doing a different activity than football.
Yeah. Zach Wilson, like, are we really going to make the case that Zach Wilson was a developmental issue?
No. Zach Wilson looked like a guy that they brought out of the stands to play quarterback. Honestly, he looks so small.
Mac Jones,
who was a million years old when he got drafted.
And Kenny Pickett has little doll hands. Like, what are we doing here? This isn't a quarterback developmental problem. These are bad quarterbacks.
So I think the way I would probably frame it is teams need to be more careful about drafting these guys that have had 15 college starts or whatever it is.
So Anthony Richardson.
Trey Lance is the other one.
Yeah, sure. And that's at North Dakota State. And I think he was hurt for part of that year. I think he only played like maybe 7 or 8 games in college. But this comes on the heels of Anthony Richardson, who I think played 12 or 13 games in college. Now, I would agree that the Colts are bungling this. But the issue becomes you spend a high draft pick on him, no experience. You know he's a project that needs substantial work.
This isn't the NBA where you can play 82 games and you can kind of figure it out.
So this is where the problem arises.
Like this is the NFL. You got to win right away, man.
And you have Joe Flacco sitting in the locker room.
And if you're bad, you get other people hurt. Like
and guys have money to be made. Like Michael Pittman, I haven't looked at his contract status, but like, Alec Pierce, like some of these young wide receivers on the Colts, they're going like, yo, I got money to make in this league, and you're throwing like if I was on the Cleveland Browns and I was a young wide receiver with in a contract year, I'm going like, yo, Stefanski, can we please go to Jameis? I have earnings to make here, and some of these locker rooms are veteran locker rooms where guys don't know how many chances they have to win. You stand the point or the chance at some point of losing the locker room of veterans. So I don't think it's a quarterback developmental problem, but we were talking about before the show. I do think the Patrick Mahomes route, the Donovan McNabb, Doug Peterson route, the bridge quarterback
to a little bit, yeah.
I think there's a lot of validity to that. Like Anthony Richardson probably shouldn't have been thrown into the fire with an inferior offensive line day one. Like there probably should be that. So I'm not completely disagreeing with the tweet. I just think some of those quarterbacks were horrible examples to make it.
It's the NFL hipsters, man. It's the people that are still doing film threads saying that Anthony Richardson's 2 of 13 first half was actually not that bad.
Did you know his completion percentage was like 48 and a half? What is it?
44%.
44. Do you know the next closest in the league at the number 2 worst?
I mean, 44. What is that? That's like a 1920 stat. Like that's
the second worst in the league is like 56%. Like he is like 12 points worse than the second worst in the league. It's really bad. I'm not saying, but like
it's a risk taking that guy who has never played. And look, Anthony Richardson in college had some of the most really unbelievable plays I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, the Florida tape was awesome.
Some of the runs he would make were just like. So I understand why an NFL GM would get infatuated with that and say we're going to take this guy in the top 5.
Sure.
But he wasn't an accurate passer there either. So, it's tough.
So, kind of agree with it to a degree, but at the same time, like, don't lump bad quarterback play in with developmental failures.
I also think, like, just sitting a guy for a few weeks is not...
It's a good thing.
It happened with Jalen Hurts. Now, it's not like he,
Sure.
he had the expectations of being a top 10 pick. But, obviously the Eagles are a disaster that year. He takes over and he gets... I think it was like 4 or 5 starts at the end of that year.
I think 4.
And it worked,
maybe 5.
And it worked out well.
Yeah, I'd say it worked out well. And Flyers in 7 says Bryce Young too. Yeah, absolutely. Bryce Young, very tiny man. And the NFL is very large. So like there's a learning curve like times 2 for you in that. Yes.
And it's just because we see, players like CJ Stroud, players like Andrew Luck in his first year. These guys that basically what Jane Daniels
are outliers.
What Jane Daniels is doing right now.
Sure.
It's just that doesn't happen all the time, and there's a lot of downside to a lot of those picks. So
sure.
That's the point. And I got to say though, like benching him for Flacco and saying we're not giving up on him, you're kind of giving up on him. It's not a
Yeah.
Huge boost of confidence.
No, it's not.
Joe
But
Flacco?
this could be good for him to, maybe learn from Flacco, shadow him, study more tape, get, more reps. And like maybe this
It
is.
should have been the opposite way, though.
Yeah.
Where Flacco does the first 5 or 6 games.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you. And to our diehards that hung out with us, thank you so much. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting kind of topic there, the quarterback developmental problem, or just not enough good quarterbacks. Because I think it's probably not enough good quarterbacks. We had a conversation in our Discord last night. I said Joe Burrow is undoubtedly still like a top 6 or 7 quarterback in this league. And people were like, I think he's overrated. And I was like, the whole goal here is to get a top 6 or 7 guy that's going to give you – there's 3 that give you a chance to win a Super Bowl every year, right? Like undeniably. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. They're going to have you in that fight. Outside of that, it becomes interesting. Jalen Hurts certainly can be in that discussion. I think Joe Burrow's there. C.J. Stroud's kind of having a clunky year in Houston a little bit, but it's only his second year. There's a couple other guys. There's underrated Staffords and Goffs, but like it's all a quest for one of those top 6 or 7 guys. And if you don't have it, you're just kind of wasting your time.
My takeaway from last week was, man, Cincy is doing a terrible job building around this guy because you can win with that guy.
Absolutely.
You can win because of that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wanted to share another picture here before we get out of here. Rich, I don't know how avid of a golfer you are, but yesterday there was quite a foursome out at Marion Golf Club over there. Where is that technically? Is that Ardmore? Oh, yeah.
In between Ardmore and Haverford.
Okay.
Havertown.
This is Mr. Saquon Barkley on the 17th green at Marion Country Club. His foursome yesterday, and this photo was courtesy of John Clark, Johnny Tarmax. This foursome.
Johnny T-Box.
How do you think he gets this picture? Do you think it's from one of the guy's Instagrams or something? Or do you think he's out there in the bushes grinding?
It's a great question. I'd love to know how the sausage gets made.
This is Saquon teeing off. What do you think of Saquon's form, first of all?
Man, he's really squatting there. He's really hunched over. I bet the ball goes a mile when he gets a good piece of it.
Oh, he must murder.
He plays
balls.
a lot though.
He's obsessed. He was at my cousin's course this year. He's been at courses over by me at like manufacturers a couple times. He's a golf addict. So the foursome.
So I don't want to like critique. I'm sure his form, whatever he's doing, gets the job done.
I would love to see this scorecard. Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts.
I didn't know Jalen was a golfer.
Yeah,
that's the one.
I think he's picked it up. I think he's made reference to it in the past. Jeffrey Lurie, and then Barack Obama.
There you go.
I think people know him. That is quite a foursome. I would love to see that scorecard. You think Saquon's the odds-on favorite there? Yeah. Now, Barry or Barack, he belongs to my buddy's club in D.C. I'm sure Obama has, 19 different country club memberships. My buddy has seen him play, and when he walks the course, they do have Secret Service detail walking with him. He said he's got a really nice swing.
That's good.
So who are you taking? Because I think
I'm taking the young guy. I'm taking the
young. You're taking Saquon over Barry? Because I think they're the two favorites.
Sure.
If I had to guess, Hurts and Lurie are the vibes guys in that group.
Sure. What's funny? I think back to Marion when the U.S. Open was there.
Sure.
And I used to drive on Ardmore Ave, kind of the road that cuts in between.
Yeah. The first tee and the second.
The course or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite moments, honestly, of watching sports was Steve Stricker, I think, was leading the tournament. And on the second hole, he hit it onto the street, which is like, I've never seen a worse shot by a pro golfer in my life. They had the shot tracer and it went like off the screen, basically, or whatever.
They say that's the most intimidating first tee in golf.
Sure. Because
the member patio is like right on the tee box. It's pretty cool. We got a super chat to get to from Chase Daniel Plainview. Is he calling me an idiot too? Should Howie fire up the QB factory for Richardson? I mean, if the stock plummets enough, you might as well take a shot here. Doll hands isn't the answer.
It is so funny that we rightfully all roasted the QB factory comment, but it also happened on the night that produced Jalen Hurts.
So I at the time, I feel I was doing sports radio and I loved it. I loved the pick because I saw the value in a cheap quarterback that you could develop. You don't want to go sign these because you're coming off of Foles, right? And like, are you really going to spend $9 million a year on a backup quarterback year after year after year? I was like, at some point, you have to get a young guy in here that's clearly like a backup spot, that's got upside that you can develop. I was like on an island that day, and then I went to a point where I didn't believe in Jalen. So my Jalen roller coaster has been all over the place. I went from loving the draft pick to thinking he was never going to do it, to being amazed in the Super Bowl at his play, to even at points this year being like, I don't know if he's the guy anymore. I am just never at a good spot. I'm always up and down with Jalen. It's a real emotional roller coaster. Which
is funny because he's just this.
Yes.
Regardless of how he's playing, he's flatline.
I am all in on being the manic fan base at this point that just goes week to week and you never know what you're going to get.
I just honestly think like he, it serves him well in that when he's struggling, he's like, yeah, all right, I'm just going to continue to be the same guy.
Yeah. So, all right, that's going to do it for us here today at the PHLY Eagles show. Of course, Zach and Bo will be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock and Friday at 2 o'clock. And then on Sunday, we've got you covered with pregame, halftime show, postgame show. And sorry, Julia, I'm about to do something. I hope you have the slide for it. Maybe not. But November 10th, we're going to be doing a pregame show out at my old stomping ground. Now, Rich, did you ever do a Manayunk phase in your life? In your fresh out of college life? Did you ever live in Manayunk?
I did.
Frequent Manayunk?
I did, but the place you're about to mention is kind of a more recent addition to the Manayunk scene.
We are going to be at the Rook in Manayunk on November 10th for a little Eagles pregame show. Looking forward to going back to my old stomping grounds. There it is, the Rook in Manayunk with our friends at Miller Lite. It's going to be a watch party, pregame show. I'm sure we'll be out there together. It's going to be a good time. So if you can make it out to Manayunk on the 10th, it's the Dallas game. It might not have the same juice as normal Dallas games because the Cowboys absolutely suck. But it's still going to be a good time at the Rook in Manayunk. So hopefully we can see some of you on November 10th.
The Rook, great place. I've watched 2 recent playoff games there, including the Eagles divisional round against the Giants a couple years ago, won by 1 million. Rook, great place to watch a game. Yeah, it's great. You bringing up the college age though. Oh man, I start thinking about like Castle Rocks and Mad River.
Oh yeah, Castle Rocks was a staple. Now, when I was in my Manayunk phase, Julia, our producer, knows my friend Jeff. He works in the restaurant industry, so he's always coming across like smokers and fryers and like all these cool like and he, I think he made me fat. He brought an air fryer home. And, we were going out in Manayunk a lot till 2 a.m. And then we started air frying, or not air frying, but deep frying everything. We had a countertop, a deep fryer in our house in Manayunk. And Rich, let me tell you.
As one does at that age.
Horrible idea for drunk college-age kids to be running hot oil in their kitchen at 2 a.m. But I'll tell you what, deep fried candy bars, deep fried Oreos, like it got really unhealthy there. So I'm glad those days are behind me. Because it was a scene.
Seems like it, man.
Yeah, it was a good time. All right, that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks to Vinny Curry and Zach Berman for joining the show. Thanks to Julia for producing behind the scenes. To our diehards and sickos, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for spending some time with us, even if you think my opinions on the tush push suck. I appreciate your time here on the PHLY Eagles podcast. For Rich Hoffman, I'm Jamie Lynch. We'll see you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.